It's funny this because Robbie didn't realize he had to follow the link. He thought it automatically brought him in for some reason. I don't know why, Robbie. What's going on?
I don't know. Was sitting in the settings menu. I'm playing about with the audio. I'm playing about with the green screen. I'm like, oh, it's 8 o'clock. I should probably click join server. I thought maybe it was like I was on a timer. Like, see if you're sat in the queue at Ticketmaster, try to buy gig tickets, and then it just kicks you into it in a few minutes. I was like, that'd be fine. I'm like, oh, it's 8 o'clock. I should probably actually click join session.
No, not at all, not a problem. But of course, you're here, Robbie. Like I said, mate, we're talking about your career in wrestling. We've got loads to talk about. Iron Girders, BT Gunn, Wolfgang, Casey Owens. There's probably a lot more which is on my list anyway. But as always, let's fall right into it, shall we? Now, of course, we're on Thursday. Robbie, how's the week been, mate? All right?
Been a busy one between wrestling and not wrestling life. There has been non-stop. I'm just on the go all week.
And how do you juggle all this? Do you know what I mean? Do you actually manage to juggle it good, or sometimes you like get stressed out of it?
It comes in a 500 milliliter can, and it's got a big M on the front of it. That's how we balance and we juggle the week. It's a couple of these guys. This is what that is. That's what keeps the week going.
What's the favorite flavor for Monster?
It just depends what they've got in the shop, really. If you go in and they've got the white one, that's like a base, so that's the starting point. If I go right, if they've got that one, I'm sorted. If not, it'll be Aussie lemonade, or it will be the watermelon one, which I know is a bit of a strong opinion. Folk don't like it, but I don't know, something about it I love. Do you drink Monster? What's your kind of?
I do. I'm a typical guy. I like to go for the green one.
The original, the black and green, or the apple one?
The black and green.
The black and green. I could never get behind it. It's weird. I like normal red, like original Red Bull. I'm a fan of, but I can't get behind an original Monster. There's something about it I don't like.
The other one I like as well is the Punch, which is like the purple can.
Yeah. What's it called? I couldn't tell you the name of it, but I know the one you're on about.
Yeah, absolutely. And how many cans could you go through a week, just out of curiosity?
Oh, but back when I was like at school and I was 16, we would go, how many would I have? Like 4 a day, 5 sometimes, depending how I was going. Like I was hitting a solid 20 cans a week. Now it's a nice even 3.
Even 3. So we're cutting down slowly but sure. Is that basically what you're saying?
Slowly but surely we're cutting down. I want to be able to get it to like 0 and just sleep like a good amount of hours, like a normal person should. But for now, the caffeine's the way to go.
There you go. And of course, like I said, mate, we're talking about your career in wrestling. So we'll start obviously with the most obvious question is I've been looking obviously through your career and stuff, and it says your career starts in 2022. Is that correct?
2021. It's just towards the tail end of 2021. So I had like a kind of unofficial debut for Respect Pro Wrestling and like a wee, I don't even know what to call it, like a wee family style show in their old training facility. There was like a 3-match card. There was like 10 folk there, if I'm lucky. 5 of them were my family. And I had that match against Raw. So that was my unofficial debut. And then my official on an actual mainline show was the Return of the Laird show, which we had Paul Tracy on. So I wrestled Thomas Daniels in November of 2021.
Sweet. Like I say, I'm looking on Cage, man. It says 2022. So the good thing about this is you can obviously correct it, so we know it's not always 100%. I mean, I know it's stuff like it's cage match. Do you know what I mean? What can we say?
I thought it was cool that I had a cage match profile and it keeps track of how long I've been champ for. I thought that was awesome. I didn't care that it missed out like 2 matches. I was like, that's so cool. It got my achievements and all my matches listed. There was matches on there that I forgot I'd had.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's an awesome little thing. So, but yeah, I mean, like I said, you're obviously a big part of obviously Iron Girders. Now, we spoke to obviously Martin obviously a few weeks back. From obviously your side, talk about obviously working for obviously Iron Girders.
Iron Girders is just really the place to be. I would say, like, I could sit here for hours and hours and hours and talk to you about what we do and how it's run, like all the different ways we incorporate real life lessons and training lessons and just stuff about wrestling and how it all intertwines together. But then I could tell you just all about the wrestling and all the training, and then I could tell you about the shows. Like, I would just define it as the top place to be in Scotland.
Yeah, absolutely. There's some obviously great talent. Obviously, you've got yourself. We've got obviously Angel Hayes, Casey Owens, BT Go, Martin. There's some absolute incredible talent, just in Scotland alone. Talk about obviously the scene.
The scene's on fire right now. Like you say, there's so much talent, not just in Girders, but also outside of Girders. It's weird, even though I'm the king of the fling and I do a lot of the multi-man style matches, there's so many people on our roster that I've not had that proper singles match with. Last year it was on my birthday, which I thought was really cool. I got to wrestle Eddie Castle for the Iron Girders Pro Wrestling Championship, which is now currently held by Martin McAllister, previous guest. But so that was somebody that was on my radar for a while. I really wanted that match for the title, especially to do it in one of our bigger shows like Easter House, which even on my birthday as well, it was so cool. There's so many folk that I want like a singles match with. I'd love to wrestle Dylan Thorne, Mikey Devine, like both Rabu, both members of Casino, even Martin. Like, as great as we are friends, I'd love to get in there with him. And outside, we've got so many great, I don't know, there's so much great talent outside Girders as well. I was keeping my eye on a lot of folk.
Is it more challenging, obviously, like when you're obviously friends with wrestlers being in the ring, or is it more confidence wise? Because obviously you know that person really well.
I think you can have a good laugh. I think it takes a lot of pressure off you, but it also then I feel there comes a certain expectation of, well, you've been training with this person for like 3 years now. You should be able to deliver on what an expectation is. Whereas if you go into a match against somebody you've never met before, there's that kind of nervousness of like, oh, you might not click. Like, there might be a wee bit of kind of disjointment between the two styles of the performers meeting for the first time. Whereas somebody you're like, oh, I know all their stuff. Like, I know what moves they do. I know what moves I can counter their moves into. It's a mix of both. I wouldn't say there's any more ease in knowing somebody than there is not knowing somebody.
Interesting. Obviously, earlier we mentioned BT Gunn. What's obviously BT Gunn like as a coach? Because obviously I've heard so much about him.
He's scarily phenomenal. He makes like what in my head is like something totally complicated. He just does it like that. Like, he makes everything's so understandable with him. Like, he walks you through a lot of the process when it comes to doing things like drills and training. Like, if it's wee kind of things he's put together and he gets us to then go at, it's the way he can pick apart stuff and then put stuff together, add layers onto things. It's phenomenal. He's got such a great mind for wrestling.
Yeah, he's a great guy. I've heard so much, obviously, about him. And the other person, obviously, who I'm a big fan of as well, is Casey Owens. Now, you obviously have worked some, obviously, matches with her. Nice little tag match there. Talk about this one.
Yeah, we go. That was a fun tag match. We've not teamed together, but we've had wee moments in the gym together as allies in front of the fans. So in the King of the Fling, where I won the belt, we both worked together to get rid of Moxie Moan and then to keep down Chris Kingston, because nobody likes Chris Kingston. Nobody wanted to see Chris walk away with this. This was always going to be mine. It was always going to be one real king. But me and Casey worked together to take out Moxie, and then again, you seen us the other month team up officially to then take on the King's Court. Well, not the King's Court, because they're not kings. So why they're not a King's Court? They're just a court of jesters. Let's go with that. But I came out with like the face paint that she does, and I thought that was really fun. So I had a lot of good fun teaming with Casey.
Yeah, she's absolutely phenomenal talent. So I want to obviously focus on obviously your obviously training stuff like that. What was the first bump like?
It's been a while. So the first one I took wasn't in a ring; it was on mats. So I started my training begins further back than 2021. So we're started 2019, not long after WrestleMania 35, the longest WrestleMania in history.
And the worst.
That was so long, man. I tried my little me. He tried his best to stay awake, but he didn't have access to caffeine at the time. Like the first bump, it was on a crash mat, so it wasn't the worst. But then as you move to like the kind of thinner layers of the mats, it wasn't as fun. It's weird. There's so much gaps in my training. So you've got like 2019 to 2020. So there's maybe like 9 months there, maybe just shy of a year. And then we have like 9 months off because of COVID. And then it goes to maybe another 9 months worth of just one-to-one sessions, like kind of fitness and staying on top of my fundamentals and my footwork. And then we get to like the summer of 2021 when we can finally do contact sports and we can get back into actual training. So it's weird. Really, I was in wrestling at 2019, but I didn't properly get my teeth sunk into training like until almost 2 years later.
Wow. What was COVID like always for you as a wrestler? Because I've never not had the chance to speak to somebody like
that. I can't comment on like as a talent and a performer because I hadn't been on a live show yet. So I can't really imagine what everyone was going through, not being able to have that experience, not being able to train, and like the folk that you were seeing every weekend in training, that was a lot harder for me because I lived so far away from Glasgow. Going up every week was like, it was a bit of a novelty behind it because you got to go up. It was different folk that weren't at school, like actual school with me. They were at like wrestling school. So you got to see them once a week and stuff. And then just being around wrestling all the time was great. And then all of a sudden we didn't have any of that and we were all forced inside. So it was quite hard to adjust to. And it was that kind of like, I don't know, like, did I get my wee taste of wrestling and this is me now? Like, did I get to go back to this? How would I get back into it? And then I was lucky that the Asylum opened up doing one-to-one sessions, and that's actually how I met BT Gunn. So I met him when I was 16 years old, and I was doing like the one-to-one sessions. So, and then eventually they moved over to Girders, and then I just stuck doing them. I ended up in his classes at the Asylum, and then we all moved to Girders. But it was really good, man. Like being able to come back and look at it all now, I definitely think those months of the one-to-ones helped propel me forward just with my fitness and get me kind of going rather than having to do all that and pick up learning how to kind of wrestle at the same time. I think I got a wee bit of the basics behind me and then I could jump into some more wrestling.
Absolutely, absolutely. Talk about obviously when you went to obviously your first wrestling show after obviously doing training. What was that like as an experience?
Like being on my first show, or like being there as like a member of like a crew, or like an actual just as a fan going to a show.
Sorry, being as a wrestler. Sorry, I should have elaborated on that.
As a wrestler, because my first one I did, I was on. I went in like I didn't want to be pure like giddy around the ring and stuff. Like as exciting as it was for me to go in and be in a ring in front of my family on a show and stuff, like it was still had to maintain that level of professionalism behind myself.
Awesome, awesome. One of my favorite matches, obviously in preparation for this interview, which one I actually liked, was you and obviously Kirby. That was probably a great match. What was that like?
That was unreal. Like to me, that's such a fever dream. That was 2 years ago now. So it was right at the start of my career. It would have been my 5th match on a show, and I got to wrestle somebody that I grew up watching on YouTube. So I grew up watching Kirby on like WCPW with my mate. So to then be like 18, one of my first big matches, probably one of the biggest matches I've still had of my career, to get to wrestle him like is a total like without sounding like a pure fanboy, man, total dream come true. Like it's something I could never have imagined, and it's something I'm very thankful for the coaches at Respect that Bobby, DCT, and Lou were able to put me into that position of right, last ever show, let's give him a big one, and they gave me Martin Kirby, and honestly, it was unreal.
Because it's a great match. I recommend that obviously to anyone. Now, obviously, as title name, and this one really sticks out for me, King of the Fling title. Is there special requirements for this? Because I just love the name overall.
So there's no special requirements to compete for the King of the Fling Championship, but there is special rules to the match. So every King of the Fling match is over the top rope, both feet touch the floor, elimination. It's Royal Rumble, Battle Royal rules. Like each match can alternate. One night I could go out, everyone's in the ring waiting for me, and then I get jumped or something. Who knows? Like I've had some King of the Flings where I've went in and I've just swung for folk and hoped for the best, and it usually works. But then sometimes you go out and it's a rumble. Sometimes I go out, I'm the first guy in, I'm the fifth guy in. Being the first guy in and having to hold on to the end is a struggle, because by the time the last guy comes in, he's fresh. You've been in there for God knows how long at this point, and all you're trying to do is win and hold on to this belt. But I think if you flung me in a Royal Rumble tomorrow, I'd like to think I've got a wee bit of experience behind me.
So I think basically what you're saying is you're a fighting champion. Is that basically what you're saying?
Absolutely, I'm a fighting champion. I don't care if there's 10 folk, if there's 2 folk, if there's 20 folk. Throw everyone at me, because at the end of the day, I'm still the king for a reason.
There you go. There you go. I love that, by the way. So, being a wrestler, do you get a chance to watch wrestling from like a fan's point of view?
Not as much as I used to. I used to watch loads in lockdown to keep me into wrestling, because like I wasn't at school anymore. I had all these time. I had all this spare time, so I was able to sit up till like 4 in the morning and watch wrestling, because I didn't have to get up the next morning to go to school. So I was like, this is class. I can sit and watch Dynamite every Wednesday. I can watch Raw every Monday. When I got back into being a wrestler, you find it kind of hard, I think, to watch it, because obviously you know a lot more, so you know the ins and outs a wee bit. You know more what's going on. You've got that different perspective to somebody that's never done it before. Like if I'm free and I've got the day off the next day, I will try to watch like a pay-per-view. The last one I watched was WrestleMania this year. I've not really had the chance to sink my teeth into anything. I keep an eye on social media, like I follow the WWE and I follow AEW, TNA. I follow them all on like social media, so I can kind of keep up to date with who's our champions, who's doing what. And I just try to watch it when I can, really. I do like watching lucha highlights, because some of the stuff they guys do is insane. That's a lot of the stuff I've been trying to incorporate more into my high flying, is like lucha style high flying.
Absolutely. And is there any talent, obviously, which sticks out for you watching, like from AEW or WWE or even TNA?
It's such a good question. There's so many. I think from WWE. I don't know, man. There's so like WWE have picked up a lot of good talent recently. Like they've just picked up Ethan Page, who I think is great. He was doing great stuff in AEW. The AEW have got Will Ospreay. That's a dream match. That's always a dream match. And then like TNA, I love the ABC. I just think they're really cool. Like I think they're great.
Yeah, ABC is brilliant. Will's obviously great. I mean, obviously UK guy and stuff like that. It's absolutely terrific.
Exactly.
Little questions probably off a little bit. Face or heel?
Me or like
You?
who I'm seeing? Oh, me? Oh no, good guy all day, man. I'm clean fighting champion all day.
Don't worry about it. I just throw that question in randomly and just see what people say.
No, I'm the good guy, man. I'm fighting champion. I'm not gonna go out there. Well, I can't say I'm not gonna go out there and kick anyone below the belt. I've done that a couple of times, but it was all in good spirits.
Awesome. So you mentioned obviously lucha, and one thing obviously I'm a big fan of is obviously in-ring style. Have you obviously adapted your style? Obviously, I presume you've adapted it over time and stuff like that.
Yeah. So now compared to that first show, the first show I did was about building a move set to turn into a style. So I was like, right, I'm a bit smaller than everyone. I'm quite athletic. I'm a high flyer. But then that's such a broad kind of genre of styles. High flyer is like a striking high flyer? Do you do like technician high flying? Like there's sub layers to different kind of styles, but now as we kind of transitioned over the years, it became a daredevil high flying style. So it's something that I'm not afraid to do. Like I'll happily put myself at harm's risk if it's a big takeoff. If I'm taking somebody out with something off the top and they move, that's the risk I pay. It's the price I pay. But I think now I'm trying to incorporate more high flying. I don't know how to make more lucha kind of style stuff. I love all the Hurricane Ranas and the head scissors. All that stuff is brilliant, but also keep my daredevil side to me because that all comes from a love of Jeff Hardy and Darby Allin. Those kind of guys that put their body on the line and have these huge like stunts and feats of, oh my god, look at this guy, he's gonna do something mental. That's the kind of style I love and want to do.
Oh dear, especially Darby. I mean, that guy is absolutely crazy. Let's be honest.
The swanton through the glass and Sting's last match, I just nodded. I smiled and nodded and was like, oh, that's so cool. I really want to do that. And thought, like, Robbie, you can't do that. You will die. And I'm like, but it looks cool.
Oh dear. Many injuries then, obviously, being in wrestling?
It's quick. Let's It's quick fire through the list. Dislocated both thumbs, broke an ankle and dislocated an ankle.
Ooh.
Bruised ribs, concussions, dodgy knee, dodgy shoulder. That's about it.
Ouch.
Yeah, I know. It's all been from doing like stupid things. I got kicked in the shoulder and it just went bleh, and my arm was all sore the next day. The thumb one was I punched somebody, and then I don't know how I chipped part of the bone inside my hand, and then my ankle was actually on the way to training. I fell off my skateboard in a pothole and went over my ankle. Like,
oh dear.
I don't have enough luck.
Oh wow, that's crazy. So fans obviously got the chance to answer your question, and on the official Girders event page, somebody actually posted one. I'll read it obviously as it says. So Louise Westy put, if I and Girders decided, right, Robbie, we're going to bring in someone from WWE for the King of the Fling, male or female, who would you most like to face in the ring?
Oh. Current superstars in the WWE. Throw me Dominic Mysterio. He's so ridiculously funny. Throw me Dominic because I think he's brilliant. He's so good at being like a wee conniving arsehole. He's brilliant. I love him to bits, man. I think I'm not meant to love him. I'm meant to hate him, which is annoying. I'm meant to hate him, but I can't help but just laugh because he's such an idiot. Throw me Dominic Mysterio. I think me and him would have a great time. Past WWE, like if I could pick anyone that's ever been in the WWE, it's gonna be Jeff Hardy. He's just my favorite. Like, and it's something you always want to envision wrestling your favorite superstar growing up as a kid. So for me to be able to look across from Jeff Hardy, and then from the current roster, I'd want to look across from Dominic Mysterio.
Wow, I mean, Jeff Hardy's part of my childhood anyway. I mean, I was a big fan, obviously, of tag team wrestling, like we did Hardy Boys, Dudley Boys, Edge and Christian Joe, them three. That's probably my three best tag team.
That's a cracking tag team list, to be fair. I dare you to find three better teams. And that's a great question from Louise Westy. Like, being able to pick somebody from the WWE to be in the King of the Fling would be awesome. Sat last night and what was I was watching? It was a ladder match from Raw, and it was Jeff Hardy and RVD, and that's just like two of the same style, but a different way of doing that style clashing in a ladder match, and I was loving it, man. It's so good.
Yeah, one thing that I remember Bully Ray always saying that the best type of wrestling matches is when the contrasting styles, collide. Do you know what I mean? You got two different styles, and I think that's a fair comment, to be honest, and stuff like that. So this next question, it kind of, it's not meant to trick you and stuff like that, but it's kind of way like to promote yourself a little bit. So for people who's obviously not familiar with Robbie Cardwell, why should fans go and check out yourself?
I realize That's a thinking one, man. That's a proper good one. To put it simply, you'll never find anyone in Scotland like me. That the simple answer is there's nobody in Scotland right now like me. I'm a daredevil. I am all or nothing. I'm handsome and funny, I'd like to think as well, which kind of helps. But honestly, I look at the Girders roster, there's no one like me. Look at every other school, every other promotion in Scotland. There is no one performing the way I perform. There's no superstar that has a fan engagement like me. Honestly, if you come to a Girders show and there's one person you're going to remember, it's going to be me.
There you go. There you go. Like I said, it's not to trick you or anything like that. It's just kind of weird, like you have to promote yourself a little bit.
It makes you think because it's one of those things you're like, what actually is it like? Why should? Well, it's a great question. Why should somebody be invested in me as a fan? But there you go. There's your reasons.
There you go. One of the things you just mentioned out there is like standing out, and I feel like that's a key thing. Do you know what I mean? You're going to make stand out from obviously somebody else because you know what I mean you've seen all the like people like in trunks and stuff like that. You got to stand out. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like if I went out there and I went out with like tights and kick pads and knee pads, you get lost in the shuffle. Whereas I'm out there and I've got like highlighter neon tassels and tie-dye jeans and a mesh top and like these big arm sleeves and my hair's all waving about and stuff. And I'm doing all these awesome moves. Like
kind of like a rocker type style.
Exactly. I've took like the Rockers, the Young Bucks, and the Hardys and just fusioned them all together.
I love it. What's some of your favorite music, rock wise?
Rock wise, who've I been listening? I'm listening to loads of Bring Me the Horizon recently. So I'm bad for going to a gig and then that's all I listen to for like the next 6 months. So I've seen them in January, been listening to loads of them, and then in the last 3 weeks I've seen 30 Seconds to Mars, I've seen Royal Blood, and I've seen the Foo Fighters on Monday. So that's what I've been having on the loop recently. But of all-time favorite bands, I'd have to go to Guns N' Roses.
Yeah, Guns N' Roses are awesome. I mean, my next door neighbor was a massive like Iron Maiden fan, but I prefer like John Metallica in a way.
That's a good one, man. I love Iron Maiden. I love that WWE used War Pigs for Survivor Series. I love that song.
Yeah, some great stuff. So a few little more questions also begin to wind down and stuff like that. What's the biggest misconception for wrestlers?
For wrestlers within wrestling or just about them, like about themselves?
About them in general.
I think that's that we don't get hurt. I think a lot of folk that think wrestling's fake and we just get up and waltz on away after these matches feeling absolutely fine. I think that's the biggest misconception. Folk don't realize this hurts. Like after doing this for a couple of years, you feel it. Obviously, like I'm not at a level of like BT Gunn, Casey, and Wolfgang who've been doing this for years and years and years and years, but like their experience compared to mine, man, they've got to be sore as well. Like I've only been doing this like 3 to 5 years on and off, but they've had careers, they've had like hundreds of achievements and accomplishments, and I'm pretty sure a lot of them have picked up their fair share of bumps and bruises along the way. Like there's nothing fake about what we do.
Absolutely, and that's a great answer. So, a few little more questions obviously begin to wind down and stuff like that. What companies would you like to work for? Obviously, I'm thinking outside obviously Scotland as well.
I don't know. It's a really good one because there's a lot of great companies producing a lot of great talent right now. An old friend of mine I'd love to get back in the ring with one day is Colton Davis. We had a match in Newcastle in a brewery. It was me, him, and Sammy Sparks, and then a gladiator who I think was also maybe a stripper came out and battered us. Especially me. I don't know, he had it out for me big time. Like, he didn't really bother about the two of them, but he seemed to have a bit of a gripe with me that night. So, I mean, the three of us, we never got to actually conclude that match and see who the best was. So I'd love to run it back with the two of them. Obviously, Colton, who was at Source and is now under GPWA, and Sammy Sparks, he trains for the Lou King Sharp Dojo. There's just so many, like, I'd love to go down to Target, Discovery. There's loads of great companies in Scotland that I think have different arrays of talent to get to wrestle, so you get to mix it up with different styles. There's a lot of folk down PWR Pro, down in Fife and Livingston, between their two schools I'd love to mix it up with. I've seen some of the stuff the Par have been doing with Casino Brutale. I'd love to mix it up again with either one of those two boys. Even your bigger names in Scotland, I've never had the chance to wrestle somebody like Andy Wilde, which I think would be good fun as well. Like, just such a vast array of talent in Scotland I've not got to sunk my teeth into properly yet.
Awesome. And what's obviously the rest of the goals for you now for the rest of the year?
I want to end the year. Well, I'm going to end the year as the King of the Fling champion. I'm not going to predict anything. That is writing it down, putting it in a wee envelope, and sending it away somewhere. I'm ending this year as King of the Fling champion. By next year, I want to have at least ticked off one more Girders championship. My long run goal at Girders is to be the first ever Iron Girders Triple Crown champion. So that's King of the Fling champion, Acme Comic Con Interpromotional champion, and then the grandest prize, the Iron Girders Pro Wrestling Championship.
I can't argue with that. I mean, like I said, I mean, you're great, obviously, wrestling stuff like that. I mean, what more can I say? I think that's a great thing to end on, really, to be honest.
No one has said it, and I've not seen anyone, nobody has put their hat or their name in the ring, like literally, for Iron Girders Triple Crown champion. So I'm putting it out there that I'm going to be the first ever one to do it.
Awesome. So obviously we'll let you plug your stuff. Obviously you've got some great shows coming up. Nice little thing coming up on July, June. Some great shows. I'm curious to see what the 18+ one is.
I'm really excited for the Over 18 show. It's going to be the first one I'm going to get to be a part of. We've just added 2 new events to that calendar as well. So on the 18th of July, we're at the Barrowlands Market. And then on the 20th of July, we're at the Alexander Parade in Glasgow.
There you go. And one final thing, obviously, from you, mate, is there anything you want to plug yourself?
All my social medias, I believe. My Instagram is Robbie Cardwell PW, for Robbie Cardwell Pro Wrestler. That's what PW stands for. And I think my Twitter is just Robbie Cardwell 1. I'm not 100%. I don't use Twitter. I don't X. I'm not on there as frequently as I should be. The best place to catch me is Instagram. That's where all my stuff goes. And that's, like I said, it's Robbie Cardwell PW.
Yeah, the thing is, I mean, with Twitter and stuff like that, it can be so toxic, you know, with some of the fan bases.
I feel like Twitter, because it's such a mainline thing, like it's so mainstream, a lot of your stuff gets lost on there unless you're able to, I don't know, Twitter, you need that one thing to spark properly to then get your account going and rolling and get it out there. Whereas my Instagram, I've put so much work over the years into being a social media, try to be a more social media person and build a business and a brand over there. Whereas my Twitter, like I retweet things that I think are funny every now and again. And maybe the occasional time where like I see, oh, there's a poster up on Twitter, get the posters retweeted, get them at, like I retweet all our show announcements, I retweet all the kind of stuff, Girders news. But all my posts and my mainline stuff goes to my Instagram.
There you go. And that kind of explains when I tag you in it, you never respond to it until later.
I know. I don't see it because if it's a Twitter tag, I don't see it. I think I've got the app on my phone anymore. I think it's muted.
This has been a really fun chat, Robbie. Do you know what I mean? Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us.
I've had so much fun. Thank you for having me on, Liam. I really appreciate it, and thank you for taking your time out your day to interview me. I've had a great time.
Absolutely. So, of course, the Magic of Wrestling is back this week, and as we're looking at wrestling what ifs. To end the show, what if Jeff Hardy showed up in Iron Girders?
There would be a mix of crying. I'd probably crap myself a wee bit because I'm like, oh my god, what is he gonna jump off of and then jump onto me off of? We talked about this at Comic-Con. So it was, who would you team with? Who would you want to fight and who wouldn't you want to fight? So I would love to team with Jeff Hardy. I'd love to fight Jeff Hardy, and I wouldn't want to fight Jeff Hardy. Like, there's such, I don't know, like, fighting him is like, who's going to out crazy the other person? Tagging with them is going to be, how crazy can we get? And then I think if we just avoid each other, everyone has a nice, healthy back for the next like 10 years. Nobody kind of loses anything. There's no like shoulders or like knees gonna break. I feel like the two of us will just go pretty unscathed if we go our separate ways.
And that is a great, great thing to end on. Cheers for watching, guys.
Oh,